God, we just come to you now, thankful that we're able to be in your presence today, Father. We just want to thank you for inviting us here, God. And I pray that while we're here, we'll remember that you have already divinely set these interactions that we're going to make tonight, God. And I pray that we'll leave here knowing that whatever we hear today or whatever you bring to us today, God, that you've already divinely set the interactions we're going to make after this, God, for us to bring that to somebody. Father, I pray that as I'm telling this story, it won't just be a story to tell, God, but it's going to bring you glory throughout it all, Father, and that it's going to touch hearts, God. I thank you for all that you've done inside of me and all that you've done inside of every beautiful person here, God. And amen. All right, well, first off, my name's Riley. Riley McEacharn. Looks like McEacharn, though. Don't ever try to look me up on Facebook because you won't know how to spell my last name. So just type in Riley MC if you want to. But I guess a few things you should know about me first before I really tell the story that I believe God wants me to tell today. Because I think throughout our life, we don't just have one thing going on. You know, we have about 10 different things intertwining one time. And so I really prayed today before I came here for God to allow me to know what to speak today and in this moment and for somebody. And for me, for healing also. Because I believe each time you speak, it's just like every time you read a verse, God reveals something new to you. So, yeah, that's what I'm asking for today. But I'll give you all a little background before I do get into what I want to talk about today. So I'm from Rayville. I grew up there my entire life. So I went to Rayville High School. My family is very large, but very, I don't know how to explain it. There's a lot of different dads going on, you know, but 5 of us, 5 kids, we all grew up together with the same mom, and that takes a strong woman to do that. So I do want to say that. I have a very strong mother who I love and respect a lot, but she has been through a lot, you know, even in her walk with God. So out of the 5 of us that grew up together, my stepdad, the dad of the 3 youngest kids, raised us from the time I was, I want to say, 3 or 4, and they divorced my senior year of high school. And I'm the second of 5 kids there. So, and then I have an older sister by my dad, and I'm also close to her. She lives next door to my mom. She's married with 2 kids, and she's awesome. So, I'm telling you, it's all over the place. But I'm only telling you that because I do study psychology, and I know that a relationship with a father does affect a girl later on because you get your sexual identity from your dad. I don't know if y'all know that, but that's where your sexual identity comes from. And so I think that is important to say leading into the story because actually today God asked me to speak about something tough, and that is sex and how I abused it throughout my life. So, yeah. That's not easy to talk about because I think when we talk about these things, you know, I have a tendency in my walk, this is just me personally, to say, you know, like to only talk about the times that I was sexually assaulted when I was 15, but that's not really what I want to share today. That's not really what I feel like God's bringing me to share. And I have a problem about talking about those things that were done to me instead of addressing the numbness I created in my life on my own completely. You know, so throughout high school, I got in a relationship. I was a freshman in high school, and it was on and off until my senior year. But I don't really want to call it, like, I don't want to say I was in love or like it, because I believe anything that really is on and off like that, that isn't a true relationship. You know, that's just something that you're stuck in, and God hasn't brought you out of it yet, or you haven't asked him to. So that's just what I believe. I don't mean to offend anybody, but I wasn't really living my life for God. When Erica asked me for a short synopsis of my story, I told her, like, at a young age, God sounded appealing to me because my mom always used to say, if y'all want to make me happy, come sit in church with me. But my stepdad was Catholic, so there wasn't a really strong foundation he wasn't going to church a lot. I don't mean anything against Catholic, but he wasn't going to church a lot. He wasn't living that out. So they had two different things going on. You know, there wasn't a strong core foundation in our family. So my mom tried. She really did. She tried so hard, and she's absolutely amazing. But I never really understood what it looked like to love God. I knew that I wanted to. I knew that I kept saying I do love God, but I didn't know what that looked like to live that out. I had no idea. I thought I did, but I had no idea. So even though God sounded appealing to me, being cool, I guess, sounded appealing to me too. And I didn't see that in the Christian world. I saw that in people that said they were Christians, but acted like they were accepting grace a little more than they were living grace out.
Wow.
You know? So, and that ultimately ended up where my life took me. So I was in this relationship, and I had a problem in high school. I played basketball, first off. I know I'm only 5'1", but I was starting point guard freshman through senior year for Rabel. And I had a problem with, how do I explain this? With perfection, I guess. And so even though I was in this relationship, y'all, I really went for this guy because every other girl wanted this guy. It didn't really have much to do with love and Riley feeling something. Riley just wanted to be wanted. And so, but I knew I'm not going to have sex with him. And the funny thing is, throughout this entire relationship, we didn't have sex. We did plenty of sexual things because I didn't understand that, you know, being pure wasn't about actually having sex. I mean, being pure is a lot more than that. And I didn't understand that. But throughout this relationship, I prided myself on the fact that I wasn't having sex with him. And I kind of hung that over other girls' heads that were around me, to be honest. And I had y'all, my best friend walked into my life in kindergarten. She had long hair down to her ankles and was wearing a skirt. And she said, "Hey, I'm Mindy." And from that moment, she was my best friend until now, until today. And when I say that girl has one of the purest hearts I've ever met in my life, and if it was not for her being in my life, I probably would have been a lot worse off than I am now. And I still did a lot of bad things that you're going to think, dang, what would she have done? So, Mindy didn't really stray the same way that I did. She partied and dabbled here and there, but she did give her life to God fully before me. So I did have that to look at. But, all right, so me and Mason, you know, that was my boyfriend's name. We didn't have sex. Just kind of prided myself on that. Funny thing about basketball, I also highly prided myself in that. And I got hurt my senior year, and I was out for 6 weeks. So that took out any chance. I know y'all are thinking she probably couldn't have gone anywhere, but I could have. I could have played at a 2-year college easily. And so that took out any chance of that. It took out playoffs. You know, that really took out everything for me. So I was a little bitter from that later on. And I decided, all right, well, I'm going to go to Tech. My mom had just gone through the divorce from my stepdad, and I decided, well, I don't want to go to ULM and be right there where all my classmates are going to be, but I want to go far enough away, you know, to where I'm separated, but I can still be there for my mom and my siblings. Because I still had 3 younger siblings at home, a sister and 2 younger brothers. And so I came to Tech, and there was only, I think there was 2 other kids in my class that went. Mindy actually couldn't afford to go to Tech, and that was the most separated we've ever been in our life. She went to ULM. So I got full ride scholarships to Tech. I graduated salutatorian from Rabel. And once again, I want y'all to know, this wasn't because I had any drive in me to like, oh man, this is so good to do school. It's because I prided myself on these things. And as much as I didn't want to admit it back then, I look back now and I'm like, I thought I was better than people. I really did. And that's just the truth of it. I really did. And it pains me to say that, but I'm sure there's plenty of girls in my class that'll honestly tell you that too. So I got to college, and I said, Mason who? And that relationship ended. So, because there was a lot more boys to look at than just Rabel High School. So I didn't really know which way I was going to go because the two people from my class that came to Tech were boys. And we weren't really close. So I thought, oh, well, I've got to make some friends. I guess I didn't think I could do that just by being in class. I had to join a sorority. So I went through Rush, which started, with Panhellenic, which started the week before school. And at this point in my life, I'd always drove my friends to parties and stuff. I'd never really, okay, I say that, but I would be high when I'd take them. I just had never really just been totally messed up out of my mind. I'd be high all the time, not realizing that's just about the same thing as everything else that I was doing. But after I couldn't do basketball anymore, getting high just made sense, It's the only way I know how to explain it to you. So I quit doing all of that because I knew they'll ask questions when you're going through Rush. They'll call people from your past and ask, what is this girl into? And if you're smoking and stuff, nobody wants a part of that. Well, not at first. They don't want a part of that. So I'm going through Rush and I'm living in Harper dorm. And I have a roommate in there with me and she's going through Rush. She got cut the first night of everything. And the only other girls I knew from Rabel were in KD. So my last two houses were KD and Alpha Chi. Well, I got cut from KD, and I thought, it turns out it had a lot to do with things that I was doing in my past from Rabel girls that knew me, and being slightly stuck up. Nobody wanted that. So I ended up joining Alpha Chi, and the main reason that was one of my last houses was my orientation leader was in there, and so I just fell in love with her. So she ended up being my big in the sorority, stuck it out through Alpha Chi, and I found what I called my temporary Mindy in Alpha Chi, and that was Morgan. And later on, she ended up having her own identity besides temporary Mindy. So me and Morgan were really, really close, but we both struggled with tension pretty bad. And if I'm being honest, I don't mean anything against sororities and fraternities, but what I noticed for sure, looking now from a godly perspective, is if you don't go into that on the offense for God, on the defense for God, then you're gonna get chewed up and spit out. Because the devil is trying to attack you in there. There are people in there. I was so guilty of it. Being in there and seeing little freshmen coming in and thinking, oh, I can't wait to get them partying with me. That's what my mindset was. And thinking, if they're not partying now, it's just because they don't know what it's like to do it. They just haven't been involved in that yet. And so, as much as I want to say that I stayed a virgin, no. The more I hung out with all those girls that were doing that lifestyle, the more that seemed okay. Because if you're only getting the opinions of people that are doing that, then that's okay in your mind. So I got bad involved in alcohol and sex, and I mean a lot of it. I told my mom before she watches this, beware. Because I think we have a tendency of just saying yeah, I was involved in drugs, sex, and alcohol, but not really saying, I hate to say this, but there's some nasty things that go on within that. And it doesn't seem like it because everybody's doing it. So you think that's okay. But sex is the type of sin where I am a firm believer in all sin is equal. But sex involves a lot more things than just your own sin. It does. It has some dire consequence that people do not think about, that I definitely was not thinking about. So Virgin Riley was no more, and I hit the ground running. And yep. So I wasn't smoking and stuff that much anymore because the crowd I was with in Alpha Chi, those girls were just drinking as if that was, above smoking. They were just getting drunk all the time. And they were judging those that were getting high all the time. But And I'll be honest, I was never judging them because I was wanting to get high the whole time. That was me. I was like, yeah, you're right, that's so bad. And on the inside, I'm thinking, dang, that's all I want to do. So I was working 3 jobs at this point. I was working at Counterculture, the off-campus and the on-campus one, when they opened up in the summer. So years gone by, Morgan, and I was working at Children's Museum in Monroe, and because you got to pay for this stuff, you know. My dad was helping me out a little bit, but not for the lifestyle that I was trying to afford. So I had to keep up. And my mom, after the divorce, my mom just doesn't have the means to do that. She's a single hairdresser, so I mean, she just really, with 5 kids, she doesn't have the means to do that, and I never wanted her to. So by the time the summer rolls around, me and Morgan had been, you know, partying and stuff, spending a lot of our time together, and she reveals to me that she doesn't think tech is for her. And y'all, we did talk about God a lot, like probably drunk, but you know, we talked about it and said like, I don't want to be living my life this way, you know, like, but did we ever do anything about it? No. So I could tell it was eating Morgan up because she had been in a relationship that she cared a lot more about than I had allowed myself to, because I wasn't a very emotional person at this point. And I could tell it was eating her up, the things she had done sexually and everything. So she decided, she's such a great girl and I really do miss her. She decided that in May she wasn't going to attend tech anymore, and she was from Dallas, and she was going to move back home and go to beauty school, and that suited her perfectly. It made sense. So Morgan did that, and I didn't want to live in Harper dorms anymore. I wanted to commute. So I had people, 3 seniors in Alpha Chi, ask me to live with them. And oh, if you thought I was hot-headed at first, you should have seen me after that, because these were 3 girls that everybody wanted to hang out with. So at this point, I'm like, oh yeah, killing the freshman game. So I move in with those 3 seniors, and I can't tell you why everybody wanted to hang out. And I was nervous every time I went home. Y'all, it just got bad. It was one of those relationships where you're nervous when you walk out of the door that you're just about to get blasted inside the house. You know what I mean? And that wasn't just with me. I knew that every one of them felt like that when they walked out of the door. We were about to talk about them. It was such a terrible relationship. But I had been separated from Mindy for so long that, like, I thought that's what relationship looked like now. I honestly did. And me and Mindy were still very close. I want to say that. She would still come and hang out with me every chance she got. So, and I still considered that the tightest relationship in my life. But I don't want to run over, so y'all let me know. So those relationships just became more and more toxic, and I just got so miserable. Well, our Alpha Chi beach trip came up, and this is the part that my mom. Okay, our Alpha Chi beach trip started to come up, and at this point, I was pretty well liked by everybody in the sorority. I really didn't have any enemies because I was mainly just doing things against Riley, you know? Well, about 4 months before Alpha Chi beach trip, a girl in our sorority and her boyfriend broke up. About 1 month before Alpha Chi beach trip, I slept with her ex-boyfriend, which was happening a lot and does happen a lot within friend groups. It's just not something that we bring to the light a lot. And so that was the first time in my life that I had really just really stepped over somebody else's boundaries, you know, or that I had thought, that was the first time that I'd really stepped over somebody else's boundaries and just been so sneaky about it. We come to beach trip and I am just wasted the whole time we're there, and everybody is. We're all just belligerent, and I go upstairs to take a nap one day, and when I come back down, Lexi, my big, says, Riley, you don't want to go down there right now. Riley, do not go down the road. As if this was perfect timing for this to come into light. Oh, y'all. And keep in mind, I'd slept, so this is the first time I was probably sober the whole trip. And I said, why? What's going on? She had my things in her hand, and she said, we're going up to the room. When I got up to that room, I probably had 50 just hate messages. Like, my name on Twitter, just blasted, like, but you couldn't really read them all because the girls were really drunk, so they were kind of, you had to decipher what they were saying. But I felt, in all honesty, I have not talked about this a lot because I tried to act like, you know, oh, they're all doing it. That was my first response, was I could say something about every single one of those girls and things that they're doing against each other. It turns out they had gone through my phone when I went upstairs and saw the messages. So, and I was like, I remember one dramatic thought in my head was, I'll get a microphone and I'll say what everybody's been doing. Like, what? What are you talking about? That's so crazy. You're going to look like an even bigger lunatic. So I ended up just staying in that room. That was probably the third day of our trip. I ended up just staying in that room out of fear, y'all. I really was so scared because Lexi was the only person like saying, Riley, I know they all do it. They're just drunk right now. It's okay. Everybody else was like, oh, heck no. Like, everybody else was very much so against me. So, y'all, my mom, most amazing woman. She wasn't really, after the divorce, my mom hasn't really been living her life for God anymore fully, and I do want to say that, but she's still an incredible mom, you know, when I really am going through something. And I have faith that that's going to change one day. So I know that. That's another story. But my mom, Lexi called my mom and told her what was going on. My mom did not have the money, y'all, and booked me a plane flight. Like, who am I? Booked me a plane flight to go home that day. She said, no, I don't want you in that. Like, it might be your fault, but I don't want you. And she really didn't know. She just heard hook up. She doesn't really know. And I think deep down she knew, like, all of them wouldn't be mad at me if I didn't do something wrong. But she said, I don't want you in that. And my mom was always against sororities from the beginning. She really was. She just never believed. So I went home and I ended up dropping out for Kai 3 months later. And right before Rush. I want to say that things changed after that, but in all honesty they didn't. Now I could just smoke. Now I could just, really, like, I was just getting high all the time, 24/7. And I want to say that I learned my lesson from what happened, but I did not at all. So that was such a bad point in my life. And you know that I got asked after that multiple times my sophomore year, aren't you the girl that took the plane ride home? I got asked that multiple times, and I promise you, it's still a thing in Alpha Chi, because that's, I mean, when does that ever happen, you know? That's pretty dramatic. Well, at this point, I'm still not owning up to the fact that I've caused all this. And sex life just got, you know, deeper and deeper into it. Did a lot of things that I definitely never thought I'd do. But the truth is, you know, if you're not growing closer to God, you're growing further away from Him. Yeah. And the more and more you say, someday I'm going to live my life with Him, because that's what I'd say. Yeah. And I wouldn't get in a relationship because I knew I wanted a godly man. I knew that. Yeah. But I didn't know that no godly man was going to want me the way I was living. And so I kept saying, you know, someday I'm going to be in this relationship with God. Someday. And Mindy had given her life to God, and I kept saying, someday. My junior year rolls around. Someday. Well, I lost a friend in September. And I want to say that just spun me out of control. But y'all, I was still so numb to the things I was already doing. I wasn't able to deal with that loss until later on, until my walk with God, because I was so numb. I ended up getting bad off into Xanax and Coke, really, really bad, y'all. And telling myself it was just a party thing, because the people I hung out with, once again, were all doing that. So it didn't seem that bad. Then Mindy started inviting me to the table, and that was a young adult ministry in West Monroe. And I had been singing in bars up to this point also. I want to say that. I'd been singing since I was 15 with my older brother in a band. Mindy starts inviting me to the table, and one night I heard a pastor say, you know, God never asked you to lead a sinless life. He asked you to seek after the sinless one, and the rest would follow. And when he said that, I probably heard that a million times worded a different way, but when he said that, I was at such a low point that it just made sense to me. I gotta quit thinking someday I'm gonna live my life for God and accept that He already lived His life for me. And so everything didn't stop right then. It was a slow thing. I'd still go to the table on Thursday nights and say, they'd ask me to go eat dinner with them, and I'd say, no, I'm gonna go back and study. But I was going to Thirsty Thursdays at St. Mick's. So, yeah, and they knew that. You know, they weren't fooled. As much as I thought I was fooling people, I wasn't. But they loved me still. They loved me through that. They didn't say, no, you shouldn't be doing that. No. They saw that I was still coming on Thursdays. They saw that I still desired God, so they just knew He's going to work that out, and we're going to still be here when He does. So January 15th of 2014, I fully surrendered everything to God, and I walked into an AA meeting, and I don't know what made me do it, because I didn't stick with AA after that. That was just a pride thing, you know. I got that chip and said, I'm going to be sober. And for the first time, my pride wasn't a Riley negative identity. I gave that pride to God, and He said, watch what I can do with it. And so God took that pride that I had right then, and I've been sober now for, you know, over a year. I want to say that everything else just ended right then, but it didn't. You know, it's been a walk. I did have sex early on in my walk with God, but He's taught me how to deal with that and how to battle it, because I've learned that sexual temptation isn't just something that you say, just like any other temptation. It's not just something that you say, I'm not going to do it anymore. You got to not put yourself in those situations.
Good.
You know, for 5 months, I knew I can't hang out with my old friends. I do now because I'm confident of God in me, and I know that I'm bringing light to them. But for the first 5 months, I was weak. And I knew, like, you can't be saying I'm not going to have sex, but go to a bar after midnight where there's only people looking for sex there. You just can't say that. That's foolish of you to think that. It really is. You know? You can't say I'm not going to have sex, but you and your boyfriend be cuddled up on the couch underneath the covers. That's foolish of you to think that. Because the more and more you play with that, the further into that you're going to go. So, that's what God's been revealing me. And now, I served at the table for about 7 months. And after telling God, you know, I want to be comfortable around these people, I want this to be my life, I heard Him loud and clear say, Riley, I can make this your every moment if you just let me. And I think we chalk it up to, I'm not comfortable around them because I don't know how to speak their language. You know, Christians, I don't know how to get into that. But God's saying, no, once you dive into this, Riley, and you really dive into it, you're going to see how beautiful their language is, how pure it is, and how much better for your soul and your spirit and your days it's going to be. And that's so true, y'all. And so, now, after singing in bars, y'all, God is so good. After singing in bars, in August of this year, and I'm wrapping up, I promise I'm about to finish, I'm going to keep y'all over, but in August of this year, or end of July, I'd been still helping lead at that young adult ministry in West Monroe, but God revealed to me, I don't have you in Ruston so you can drive to West Monroe every day. That's not your plan here. You know, for some people that may be, but for me, I had a lot of friends here. All my friends here were still stuck in living a worldly life. And so God revealed to me, like, I want you to meet them where they're at. And I pick them up on weekends. I pick them up from the bar. And I promise you, every time that I do, it may be in a drunken stupor, but somebody tells me how they want to change their life. Somebody does. And then I know from that moment that's a lead-in, you know? And that's how good God is. And now, I found South Parkway. That's a story in itself, but y'all can ask that later if you want, but somebody invited me to South Parkway. And now I lead worship every Sunday and every Tuesday or every other Sunday. And y'all, I tried for so long to perfect my voice, you know, to perfect these relationships, to be something. Because I knew, I really did when I was little, like, I felt like I'm going to be something someday, you know? And what God's revealed to me is like, you're nothing outside of me. Mm-hmm. Nothing. And now I'm leading worship, and God did with my voice what I never could do.
Wow.
Because even just listening to something over, I'm not happy with it. I feel like it sounds the same. But when I'm up on stage, and instead of having fake alcohol confidence, I have the Holy Spirit working in me. Like, my voice, when it comes out, y'all, it may not sound like it, but to me, with my relationship with God in that moment, it feels like angels just speaking.
Wow.
And so, I never knew that it could feel like that, you know? I never knew that He could do that. So, yeah, that's where I'm at now, and God is good, and I'm still working through a lot of things, and I'm gonna be working through a lot of things until the day that I die. I know that. I know that, you know, I have to choose every day. I struggle with doubt a lot, I do, which sounds crazy from all He's brought me from, but I do. I struggle with doubt a lot, but God's revealed to me, it's a choice. You may never get some of these answers you want, you know, because my ways are so much infinitely higher than yours, Riley. But it's a choice you make each and every day to wake up and say, look, I'm going to live my life for God today. Because I have family members that, you know, even if God wasn't real, which I fully believe He is, but even if He wasn't, that's the only way I got out of that, and I want that for them, you know? And how else are they going to see that unless I commit to really, really living my life for Him? Not just saying grace is there, but walking in that grace. Because really walking in freedom means not being a slave to your selfish desires. And so many people want to say being, you know, walking in freedom is doing what you want when you want to do it, and that's not true. That's not true, because you're just a slave to those desires that produce a negative identity. But I'm walking in freedom that God gave me, and I feel free every day doing what He has set for me to do. And I backslide, but I pick myself up. I don't stay in it, y'all. So, yeah, that's my walk with God. That's where I'm at right now. He is good.
Yes.